And welcome back to Dawn's Dirt, the podcast where we talk about food, farming, freedom, and the people working to build stronger local food systems. Today I'm joined by Greg from Sunshine and Green Farms in Suffolk, England. And this was a really interesting conversation. Greg grows vegetables on a small scale and has built a profitable model doing it. So we dive into what it actually looks like to grow vegetables in a way that makes you a little bit of money. Not just a hobby, but as a real business. We also talk about why we need more young farmers coming into the industry. We talk about profitability in vegetable farming, how small scale growers can build a viable operation, and why farmers are starting to question the global food system we rely on today. When you step back and look at it all, it's a pretty crazy system. We import food from all over the world while farmers in our own communities are more than capable of growing it. Greg and I also discussed the difference between a centralized and decentralized food system, why local food matters, and how relying on government subsidies in agriculture can be risky when governments and policies can change overnight. At the end of the day, this conversation comes back to something I care deeply about, bringing food production back closer to home and putting more control back into the hands of the farmers and the local communities and the local people. If you care about food, farming, and building a stronger local food system, you're going to enjoy this episode. And before we jump in, make sure you hit the subscribe to Dawn's Dirt podcast so you don't miss future conversations with farmers, growers, and people who are working to reshape the food system. All right, let's get into it. Welcome here to the show today. So happy to have you. Very excited. You are my first guest from England. Is that what you would say? England?
England for
The
sure,
UK?
Probably England actually.
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean it's great. Yeah, what a weird miracle of a world it lives in that we can have this conversation from I don't know how many thousand miles away. It's bananas, isn't it? It's pretty cool. So yeah, thanks.
It
What an
is so
opportunity.
cool. Yeah, it's so great that we can do this. So can you tell me a little bit about who you are and your farm? I found you on the internet. You're a vegetable farmer. As soon as I see anything on the internet about vegetable farming, like I was a vegetable farmer. I had a 36,000 square foot greenhouse. I did 20 acres of garden. Unfortunately, I had to sell it 2 years ago. So, but anytime I see like vegetable production, I'm like, ooh, like a shiny penny. I want to talk to them. So yeah, just tell us about yourself.
Okay, so the farm, you might not know what a council tenant means. But basically the local council here, sort of local government, they own 10,000-ish acres of Suffolk and they rent it out. So that's my landlord. It's a private tenancy for all intents and purposes, but it comes with hopefully a bit more security because there's no dodgy private landlords doing things that you don't want, which is what you need when you're staying up a farm because it's a long-term thing. So that's been really helpful. I'm only growing on 4 acres at the moment because I had to get a foot in the door and there was an opportunity with a little tiny 4-acre field. And I thought it's not big enough really to do what I want to do and make a big, like a decent living from in the long run. But you got to start. And I was like, I was sitting, I'd had a series of bad events and I found myself sitting without a farm, wondering what I'm going to do. No money, nothing. And my granddad was the council tenant years ago. And I said, I wonder if there's any local to me. I looked online and there was, but it was 125 acres, which was too big for me. I didn't have the money to build it. And there was a little 4-acre field in the middle with a burned down ruin of a barn. And I thought, I reckon we'll be friends. So I went there, had a walk around. They asked me to fill out an application form, which was how much wheat, sugar beet, and what do you call it? Not oilseed rape. What do you call that?
Canola.
Canola. Yeah. And I said, well, none. So I can't fill this form out. Sent a business plan basically saying I want to grow fruits and vegetables. With a picture that a friend of mine drew of what it will look like. This was all during COVID, so this was 2020. And then a long wait series of interviews. Got the farm. cut a long story short, October 2020, and began to build. Put it into organic certification, um, because we'll save that one. We'll save the why organic for later. I wanted to set it up as a small agroforestry farm, so I've divided the plot into 6 plots. I remember an old boss of mine saying one time as a throwaway comment, this country wants to be a forest. But obviously that's not practical because we've got to eat. So agroforestry is a nice compromise. We can park that and talk about that later as well. The basic premise of what I want to do is to increase biodiversity and food production together, rather than, I don't know if you have that in Canada, we've got this like camp of let's rewild and then this camp of industrial farmers. And you're like, well, you're both nuts. Like, we need both of those things together. And agroforestry was a nice way of doing that. Being very small, I can't feed into sort of traditional markets. There's, supermarkets just don't want 100 lettuces at once. They're not interested. And also being very seasonal and not having any money, a farm shop was a disaster. Like I couldn't do it. Like I can't set that sort of thing up. So a box scheme was the answer. I suspect that will change in the next few years slightly. There's some guys actually in your neck of the woods. Do you know Small Scale Rebellion? Is that what they're called? They're in British Columbia.
I've heard of them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've heard of them.
we draw a lot of parallels. We have our differences, but I really like what they do. But again, we can talk about that later because I think a lot of innovation in routes to market is going to come from small farms. It's not going to come from the big boys at all. So in Suffolk, to set
No.
the scene, it's pretty much arable, wall to wall, as far as the eye can see, wheat peppered with little bits of sheep eating winter cover crops and the odd cow here and there, a bit of cattle. The nearest vegetable grower to me, organic anyway, is about 20 miles away. And then the other veg growers around here are big potatoes and onions. And again, probably 10 or more miles away from me. So there's no one really. Pros and cons with that. There's no competition for what I do, but also there's no marketplace for it. So people are creatures of habit. And so to build in and be like, I'm here, I've got something to offer you is a big change because you've got to get people out of the supermarket habit. So it's been an uphill battle on that one, but a series of events, political events and financial events in this country have made people look at farming differently, which I think has helped. And they really want local food, primarily, number one, from farmers direct that they know. And social media has been a key player in helping this movement happen. Like, I feel like we're on the tip of a wave that's building up. And we just need to paddle like crazy to get on the front of it. So I
I
grow,
I
go on, jump in.
I was just going to say, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that the whole local movement, like we saw it when I had my farm in 2020, I really saw it then. People were coming to me, you have food, right? You have food, right?
Yeah,
Because we saw here in Canada, in the States, we saw our supermarkets, we saw the grocery stores shelves empty. And for me, this is my theory. Like if we're relying on this big system, that's a bit of a scary picture because you're relying food being shipped in and on boats, on planes, on trains, on automobiles, and where's it coming from? And we're relying on this big centralized system. And I fundamentally believe that the key to food security globally is small and local. So I love that your story and that you had nothing. This is what I want my listeners to hear from this. You had nothing. You started from almost nothing, and now you're building a business and you're building a food hub, and that's amazing. Cool. Kudos to you.
thank you. You hit a key word there, like the decentralization of food is I think is really important. Like I won't put any examples out, but history is littered with examples where there's been mass starvation because of a centralized system. And by the way, this isn't like left-right communist capitalist thing. There are examples of both systems where like a handful of people have been in control and millions of people starve. Now, I don't know what it's like where you are, but in this country, there are 7 supermarkets that control, I think it's about 96% of the groceries market. Tesco's have a third of it. And recently, government subsidies have stopped since we left the EU. So food is no longer subsidized. And Tesco's are creeping in, offering subsidies. And you're like, don't take them. It's a trap. Like, it sounds good. It's that hand of comfort, isn't it? It's like, oh, we've got you. Don't worry. We'll buy all your cabbages. But we think we're paying a bit much, and that's where that to me is, that's the mess that we're in, is there's too few people in control of the food. I don't know. I think in this country, I don't know how many grain buyers there are, but there's not many, and so who controls the price? It's not the person growing it. And I think local markets give you that control. Like, you obviously can't charge whatever you want. There's still a vague market price, but you can look at it and go, well, what is my cost of production? And by the way, I think looking at if you look at one crop and go, what's the cost of production of this? You'll probably fail. It's the business as a whole, because if I were to look at my most profitable crop, which last year was probably squash, and then I go, well, I'll just grow squash then. But then I wouldn't have a business attached to it, right? Because people don't just eat squash. It's like, and next year it might be something else that does better in different weather conditions. So, where was I going? Yeah, so farm business overall has to be where you look for your profitability. And the great thing with that is, I've got this fun idea that I'm sort of playing with a bit, and I'd like to put it into some kind of talk in the future. And I think you'll enjoy this one because it's fun. If you want to plan a farm, look at a dinner plate, a whole dinner table, and produce that, because you'll have everything from, I don't know, some kind of meat, eggs, arable, vegetables, fruit, everything you need to create a meal. What that gives you is every single person is a customer, everyone, because you've got something for everyone. If they don't eat meat, cool, have a radish. You know what I mean? It's like, it's all right there. You can tailor it to what your farm can produce. Maybe I can't grow arable, I don't have the space, but I can have eggs, I can have fruit, I can have vegetables, right? Tied into that, of course, you've then got a diverse range of crops, which provides a diverse range of habitat, from long-term pastures, which will build soil health, which you could then put arable in later. You can tailor it to your local community. Maybe people in your town don't like kale, so you don't grow it, but people in my town love it, so I'll grow that, right? So and again, it decentralizes it. It gives you control over your farm, because every farm's different as well. It's like, well, what can I produce of the dinner plate? It might only be half of it, but it still opens the door to more customers. And I thought of this the other day. I was at a meeting of farmers, and mostly arable, about 30 guys. 2 of them had livestock. Not a single one of them ate the food they grew. They all had to go to the supermarket to buy their food. And it was like, I'm sitting there looking around going, well, I came into this because I want to grow my own food, and none of you eat your own food. It was just mad. I was just, this is bananas. What's happening here? But it's that control, isn't it? I'm not like some sinister dictator, but the farmers have lost control of the food. They still have to go and buy it. It's like, hang on, what's happening? So that's sort of the grandiose view of things, of what I do from a little 4-acre farm. So.
For sure. You're so correct. And this is the thing that I've been saying for about 10 years. So a little history on me is I had a 36,000 square foot greenhouse, and my parents had a greenhouse before that, and they sold to the warehouse, and the warehouse sold to the grocery store, to the supermarket, and the supermarket sold to the customers. And the pricing got so low that when we had our greenhouse, the money didn't pencil out. It just didn't tic-tac-tician out. And so I started direct marketing to customers at farmers markets, and we were going with cucumbers, tomatoes, peppers. And then eventually I looked in my field and I thought, oh man, I've got all this field. I may as well start growing a garden. And so started with 1 acre of potatoes, carrots, onions, beets, zucchini, blah, blah, blah. It's shorter to tell you what I didn't grow than what I did. And I was taking all of this produce to the farmer's market. And I went from 1 acre of garden to 3 acres of garden to 10 acres of garden to 20 acres of garden because, I was a one-stop shop for vegetables. I also had, chickens. And so I brought eggs to the farmer's market. And then I had some lamb as well. I brought some lamb, not to the farmer's market. I sold that in my stores. But it was taking my farm and providing food for people. And yeah, people were scared. In 2020, they were scared of where their food was going to come from. So I absolutely love that you are doing farm to table. And to me, it's insane that because we have that here in Canada too, that farmers still go to the grocery store for their food because some of them don't even eat their own beef because it's almost sometimes cheaper to buy it in the grocery store than it is to butcher your own. Like, what is happening with our food system? It's
Yeah.
crazy. Could you tell me, I've seen online and, because we're in Canada, I've seen online there's these farmer protests in England. What is going on with that, and what's your perspective on that?
There's some complex issues there. So part of it is horticultural stuff in this country has been decimated um, in terms of fruit and veg. There's not much left. The Netherlands is a wild story. We buy a lot in from them as a country. They are the third largest exporter of agricultural goods after America and China. The Netherlands. It's like this big. Anyway, that's a side subject. Um, so
I'll just throw in here. I have relatives in the Netherlands. I'm Dutch blood, but you can say
there
whatever
you
you want
go.
to.
No, I have a lot of time for the
Yeah.
Dutch. Like I've worked with Dutch engineers. They're completely mad, but really lovely people. Um, so we've become dependent on imported foods. A lot from Spain, a lot from the Netherlands, and a few places like that. As a result, there's it, how do I go into this? So the environmental standards in this country are very high, um, and production standards in terms of chemical use, etc., are also very high, making cost of production very high. And so supermarkets would prefer to buy in from cheaper places where the standards tend to be a little bit lower. The labor is not paid as well. Input costs are lower. And of course, British farmers can't keep up with that. The public want British food. So there's a whole plethora of crazy things going on. So there's a lot of competition from deregulated foreign countries. There's really crappy prices from supermarkets, standard story. A lot of those are on contract, as I've found out recently, and from past experience, they won't allow these farms to sell direct or change their business model because they'll cut them off. Like there's loads of weird supermarket tactics. And it's all tied in with a time when the government, since we left the EU, we've lost the basic farm payment, which, by the way, is a small farm you don't get anyway. They've cut that, and the only remaining subsidies now are they're called the Sustainable Farming Incentive. It's as it expects, it's environmental stuff, so it doesn't subsidize for food. Meaning that as you stack up a country that has some of the highest production costs in the world, is now competing with the likes of Spain and Africa and Asia for vegetables, it's like it just doesn't work. That being said, I know some big growers, you know, much larger scale than me, and we've done the maths, and you can actually outcompete the supermarkets if you sell direct. You could add 20% to the margin of pretty much any crop, giving you more, like to cover the cost of sales and to get a bit more. But still undercut the supermarkets, offering better value to customers. And it's like, if only, like, I'm a little bit scared that a few big farms with all their resources will figure this out and just crush me, right? Because I'm still relatively high in terms of production, but just because I'm smaller, my efficiencies aren't quite there. And I just think I see these guys, and I'm like, if you spent 50% of your next year's investment on sales instead of tractors, you just blow the market to pieces. The maths is right there. It's so simple. I mean, if you just take milk, for example, milk is in trouble at the moment because the milk price farm gate is something like 30, 35p a litre, about 10 pence under the cost of production, right? Which is nuts. Doesn't make any sense, but that's what they're doing. And you go, okay, so you need 44p a litre. The supermarkets are selling it for about £1.70 per litre. Why don't you sell it for £1.20 a litre? Then you're adding, what, nearly 200% margin. You pay someone to do the sales, you can still be the farmer, and you've undercut the supermarket. Like, the maths is right there. Why don't you do it? Do you know what I mean? It's like, is it you don't see that? Am I missing something? I'm not sure. I always automatically assume I've missed something, and I don't know what it is. Right? So
Yeah. Hey friends, on Don's Dirt, we get real about growing food, farming, homesteading, living free, and digging into the stuff that actually matters. If you're loving the dirt we're dishing out, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow on your favorite social media platforms. That's how we keep growing this community of badass, soil-covered, chicken-loving, freedom-chasing humans. Like and subscribe to me on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it. Come be part of the movement. So in Canada, we are not actually, you have to jump through a lot of bureaucratic hoops in order to be able to sell milk to the public. And so that's why most dairy farmers here in Canada are big. We've got a quota system that guarantees their pricing and things like that. But what it does is it pushes, we don't have any little dairy farmers. We have some black market dairy farmers, but we don't have a lot of little dairy farmers. And so it's the bureaucracy in my experience that is pushing the little farmers out. That's what we've got going on right now in Canada. We've got a traceability issue in beef. And so you've got some of the bigger feedlots and, the really big, extremely big farms pushing for this traceability bureaucracy. And the little farms, with 30 cows or 40 cows, they're going, we can't do this. We can't take on any more costs, to make it. Yes, you can make bigger margins. And that's what I did. I pulled out of the grocery store. I got bigger margins. And the benefit of that for a customer is they're getting better product. I used to tell my customers all the time, I guarantee my vegetables for the week. If they go bad before the week's up, you get a free bag. And I rarely had to replace anything up because I had higher quality vegetables than the grocery store had. Because once it was a week old, it was grocery store standard. By the time vegetables go from a big, farm in Spain or Egypt or the Netherlands or wherever it is, brought to the warehouse, packaged, put on a mode of transportation, brought to another warehouse, brought to the grocery store. Best case, that produce is a week old, whereas your produce is hours old, days old, maybe.
yeah, exactly. I learned something really fascinating the other day as well, because most food, grains, milk, all these things, they are commodities, right? So the price is dictated by commodity traders. I did not know that lettuce is also a traded commodity. And I learned there's a grower in Spain that sells to the supermarkets here. They might pick a lettuce, fill a lorry up with those lettuces, and they might be worth £1 each. By the time that lorry arrives in the UK, 24 hours later, they'll be worth 50p. And the farmer pays that price or gets paid that price. And they might lose money on that lorry of lettuces. You're like, hang on a second, that doesn't, like, how do you do that? Like, I don't understand. The consumer, their price doesn't change. So it's the trader and the supermarkets that make a mint out of that. And I just think, why would you want to live that way? Okay, right, we're ready to pick. And you're talking about, these growers are big. We're talking about millions of lettuces at a time. And you're like, if you spell that out, you send a million lettuces in one go, and like, great, £1 million. And then it's, no, 500,000. Like, that's a serious, like, you've got some cash flow problems. You're rolling the dice with every lorry of lettuces. And I just think, I can't do that. And it's not fair on anyone really. Even the customers are getting ripped off at the end of the day. And you're kind of like, well, I pick a lettuce. I know what the difference is. So my business, I know the break even in terms of number of customers. So it doesn't matter about an individual lettuce. And I sort of touched on this earlier. Like, the veg box is the product. And I know, so I offer, because it's seasonal, it's not always the same each week. It gives me the freedom to be able to add value of certain things. So if something's like an expensive item to buy on its own, I can actually put a bit more of that into my customers because overall the product is a different. Does that make sense? Where am I going with that? It's hard to explain. Um, I feel that it's a good vehicle to add value in terms of fancy products. You don't have to stuff it full of potatoes to make that 15 quid. You can put fancy bits in there.
Yeah.
They get a better price. I get a guaranteed income. I just have to deliver the value. And the great thing is, I kind of built it backwards. So I started off like from zero, no tools, nothing, a dibber, poking plants in the ground with my hands. And I was like, what if everything fails? And it turns out I can't grow anything. So I built that business model based on the fact I had to buy in 100% of the produce. And then everything I grow adds margin, right? It's like it's free because I've grown it myself. So over time, as I've got better and more refined as a grower, and I'm able to grow more variety, and I've quit my day job, so I'm on the farm all the time, and I can focus on stuff like that. The veg box becomes more profitable, not the individual crops. So it's a weird
For
backwards
sure.
model, and it means that since I sold my first veg box in autumn 2021, I haven't put my prices up at all, and it's more profitable than it was back then, despite inflation and all the other nonsense that's going on at the moment. And it's just like, it's really nice to see that. And that's thanks to having customers, knowing what I need for the business costs, not the crop. It's like, okay, so this crop is going to cost me X amount to grow. Who cares? Like, I've got to run a barn. I've got someone I need to pay. I've got vans to run. That's the cost, not the cost of fertilizer. Who cares? And also organic, the fertilizer thing, actually kind of laughing at the moment because of this war situation. Fertilizer's gone up. And I'm like, well, I use chicken shit. Uh, it's almost free. It's not dependent on the price of oil. So, yeah, I'm waffling there. Where should we go next? What?
Well, I just want to shed some light on that too. So you're right. You're a small farmer. You're doing most of the work yourself. You probably don't have a big payroll. You probably don't have, huge tractor payments or combine payments or anything like that. So you're able to keep it simple, which means you're able to keep your costs low, and that way you can make more profit there. The problem that I had with my farm is my farm was too small for the big system. And it was actually too big for the little system. My land payments, my labor costs, and everything like that. I was a middle-sized farmer, not a little farmer, not a big farmer, but a middle-sized farmer. And since selling my farm, I think we need more farmers like you because it's brilliant. You're right. Like, you are your farm, you yourself. If you can do a bunch of the work yourself, then that's all you're going to get paid for your time and your efforts, and you can keep your cost of production very low. I think it's brilliant, and I think we need more small farmers like you and less of the big guys, because the big system, you're right, it's a centralized system where, and that system to me is very fragile. You're right, empires rise and fall, and I don't trust that system. I trust what I have in my backyard. So since selling my farm, I landed on about a 2-acre plot here. I grow a few vegetables just for myself. I have a couple of goats. I have some chickens. So I have things that I can feed myself with and feed a few other people with.
Yeah, and I think so. I'm taking on some more land at the end of this year. We're going to see where because you're right, like the scaling up from where I am, I've got to be very careful because they're in theory, the more I grow on farm, the more profitable we are. But then you've got to start adding in that labor cost and all this. So if I can keep my production in line with the big farms, then we're on for a winner. If it, and this is where that middle size, exactly like you say, there can be a discrepancy in that because you don't have the efficiency of the big fields and the big machines because that your costs are not proportional in that sense. So I've got to be quite careful. I've got to get the right kit, get the right team, and finding people is very, I'm sure you know, is very difficult. Farming, especially small like this, and particularly organic, it's romanticized, and people come along like, oh, it'll be lovely. It's like, it is. It's also really hard. So, so that's good. But I had a chat. There's another guy who's starting up near me recently, and which is great. Like I say, we need more small growers. And I think it's an opportunity for the big farms as well, because I have to supplement. I can't grow everything. To be able to have customers 52 weeks of the year, I just have to lean on the big farms a bit. It's about 80% of our own veg in the summer. And right now it's the other way. It's about 20% our own. So I focus on not necessarily higher value, but more things that don't travel as well. So like I say, the salad, things that I can pick 12 hours before delivery, right? That I can't get from another farm because they just don't travel as well. Um, and having that for the larger farms, it's not like a supermarket deal. They send me a price list with the price that they want to sell it at, right? So the more of this sort of thing there is, it's the confidence for them to begin to slowly change their business model. And I chatted to this other guy, he's a small grower like me, and he goes, well, but don't you feel like you're cheating? It's like, not at all, because you're offering that security to the big farm. You're offering extra variety to your customers, but it also means that you get to like grow more interesting variety. Like, why would I grow potatoes and carrots? There's a great grower not far away. They are big. The quality is superb. They're organic. The price is good. Cool. I don't need to grow that. My ground isn't necessarily suitable for it. But I can grow some banging lettuces, some really nice spinach, some great tomatoes, stuff that no one else in Suffolk is growing. Do that, right? And but it builds in that resilience as well, because if my tomatoes fail, which they did a couple of years ago, that's another long story. Be aware of, I'm sure you know what clopyralid is, do you? Might be a different name. There's a very
What's that?
clopyralid. Have you heard of that? Might be aminopyralid. It's a selective herbicide. I had a contamination and it wiped out half the farm.
Oh,
So, anyway, the point is
hey,
you
I
have
had that happen.
really, it's so common. And I think there's a cover up. They tried to pay me loads of money to shut up. And as you can tell, I haven't taken it. It was
No.
gross.
So tomatoes are extremely, extremely, extremely sensitive to herbicide, and I had a herbicide get into my my dugout one June. We had big rains, and it ran into my dugout and it killed my entire 36,000 square foot greenhouse of tomatoes because they are so sensitive to it.
Yeah,
Brutal.
exactly.
I put in a charcoal filter after that.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah, it's real sketchy. But the point is, you get that resilience because it means that if something fails, there's a big grower nearby that can probably bail you out. If there were more small growers, it would be even better because it's like I will have a surplus of stuff. I could sell it to them. Likewise, to me, if I'm missing 10 bags of spinach, people are like, mate, can you bail me out? I'm 10 bags short. Yeah, cool. Like, because it's just down the road. So my kind of my broader dream is to prove this model works, like get it fully established. And we're right there now. Last year was kind of a breakthrough year in that I finally saw the light and was like, this might work. And so this year it's like, right, cement that in. and we'll try taking on a bit. 10 acres is all I'm taking on. But then to be able to go back to the council and say, right, have you got some small plots of land? Let's find some young people and try and help them get started. Whether I offer an apprenticeship for a couple of years to give the council the confidence to be able to go, okay, yeah, we trust this kid, let's do it. Interestingly, since I've started this last 12 months or so, I reckon 5 big farmers around here, arable farmers, have dropped into conversation. Oh, I've got 10-acre field. Oh, I've got a 5-acre field. Do you want to, and these are people that scoff, like 5 years ago, they're like, organic, small scale, no money in that. How are you going to make it pay? And now they don't want to do the work. They see the value in it, but there's a big risk. And at the end of the day, most of these guys, no disrespect, they're a little bit over the hill, right? They've done their time. They don't have much time left to take a big risk and to start a new business. And so it's like, cool, you've got these bits of land. You see the value in this sort of thing. We now need to find some young people at the beginning of their careers and go, have a go, do it, try it, like get started, and to be able to kind of offer them the confidence and go, look, it does work. And I'm always pretty blunt with it. When anyone asks me for advice, I kind of laugh. I'm like, how many years are you willing to not get paid? Because it's like starting from zero. It was 4 years before I took a decent salary, and even then it's like, I'm still less than minimum wage, but there's still light at the end of the tunnel. It's like, cool, I've got a target. We're going forward. But the level of investment is like, I had to buy a barn. We had to put water in, power in, plant the trees, all the polytunnels, machinery, all of this stuff is earned along the way. And one guy said to me, he's like, he's, a big landowner. And he's like, oh, but there's no money to make the changes. I'm like, what do you need money for? You've got land. Like, just use that and do a little bit, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more. It's like you look at the big picture and you never get started. Like it's such a farming is the perfect analogy for this, isn't it? Because you just plant one seed and then it's like it will grow. So, but I'd love to be able to do that. And I think I've looked at colleges around here, and agricultural colleges are kind of closing down in the UK more and more. Nottingham University just closed their agricultural department, or they're closing it. Yeah, so I approached a couple of the colleges and I was like, do you do an apprenticeship? And they do apprenticeships in things that are not applicable to this style of farming. So small scale horticulture and direct sales, because it has to be all of that. In fact, the colleges don't teach sales at all, really. And you're like, but most of it is sales. Like it's not been funny, but it's 50-50. You got to be good at growing, but if you're good at growing, but you can't sell stuff, then what's the point? Give up, don't even start. So it was fascinating to see that. And I think again, I mean, we're both biased on this, but the small scale farm has an advantage in that I can take a young person, teach them to sow seeds, raise the plants, harvest them, and then take them to a market and meet the customer, right? You can do the whole journey. And I'm not sure, like when I first came into this, I shied away from big farms because I was like, I might just pick leeks for a year, right? And I don't want to do that. Like that sounds rubbish. And I just didn't see the learning opportunity there. There was a lad came from one of the local colleges a couple of years ago. He's doing a regenerative degree. And he came with the Cub Scouts. He was helping look after these kids. And halfway through the tour, he came up to me and he's like, I've learned more here in the last hour than the whole year at university doing regenerative agriculture. And I think it was the sales side of it. It's like I grow apple trees in agroforestry because I need to pay for the habitat. If you can't pay for the habitat, it's not sustainable. Oh, the government will give you money. Well, will they? Because they might do. until the next election, or they change the policy in 6 months, or they haven't got any money. Like, wouldn't you much rather grow apples that you sell to the community down the road? Because at the end of the day, they're going to eat every day of their life. Their kids are going to eat every day of their life. Their grandkids are going to eat. Like, what? Why would you be like put yourself in a position to be dependent on a government that changes every few years? It's dumb, and I'm quite strong on that, and that offends a lot of people. And I've stopped caring
Not
because
me.
um, it. You know, I was at a talk recently, sticking with the nature sort of friendly farming as they call it here. He gave this great talk and all these things and these wonderful projects he's got. And I stood up at the end, it's like, mate, so the next government looks like it might not be as friendly to wildlife as this one. Can you do what you do now without the government checks? And it's one of those things, like the anger behind his eyes. You're like, is the answer no? I think it probably is. And then it's like, it just drives me nuts because the words sustainable and subsidy are so at odds, but literally mean the opposite. So you're like, you can't. And a few farmers came up to me after that talk at the end, and it's really disturbing actually because it's a waste of money. One guy, he leant in and he whispered, it was like a dirty little secret. He goes, I've just signed up to a new sustainable farming incentive. It's going to pay me £36,000 a year. I was like, oh, right. And he goes, but it's a complete waste of money because I've got to inter-row drill my wheat, my autumn wheat with a cover crop. But then I put my pre-emergent on and it all dies anyway. And you're like, okay. But, these voices are quiet because he's like, well, I'm doing it for the money. The loud voices are the minority that use that money to create a new farming system, but they're using it correctly. But that's a small amount of the people that get this money. And everyone else is like, yeah, we'll just take the free money. It's like, so I'm getting more confident at saying that out loud because I don't think it works. And, if a 4-acre farm that has never been eligible for subsidies ever can do it, then if you're thousands of acres, I don't know what you're talking about. What's your excuse? I don't get it.
Well, it's the big system. It's the big system. And
Yeah.
and honestly, like I'm very like governments we need less government. We need more like self. Like let's do this ourselves. Let's work with our communities. Let's work with our neighbors. Let's work with our friends. And yeah, I actually have no use for government bureaucracy. I think government bureaucracy, it's ideology and it actually hurts small farmers like
Yeah.
yourself eventually in my opinion. I was going to say, do you know what I do?
No.
So I actually am coaching people since selling my farm. I'm teaching people how to do small scale farming. I'm teaching people how to do, you're right. The what's the word? The marketing. I'm teaching people how to do marketing. I'm teaching people how to do sales. I'm teaching people how to, promote their farm and go farm to table. And so that's what I do now is I coach small scale farmers on how to make money and how to make their farm go because I believe we need more of them. One thing that I actually ran into, and part of the problem of why I had to sell my farm, and this would be a caution for, um, of for England, is I actually was competing at farmers markets against people that were buying and selling produce, cucumbers, tomatoes, and peppers from the biggest greenhouses. So it would be like people buying from the Netherlands, buying that produce, turning around, lying, and saying, "Oh, it's farm to table." And so that was a big problem that I ran into. So it's a lack of transparency in agriculture and the lies to make money. For me personally, I would rather tell the truth and lose a dollar than tell a lie and make a dollar. That's just fundamentally who I am. But
Well,
yeah, that's a
that's the
little tangent.
main.
Those are some of the thoughts I had when we were talking.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think what you said there is basically what many of the protests are about in this country. There was a supermarket depot that was blockaded by farmers, and it's the same thing. Like they're trying to compete with all like imported food, and it's not possible. Like don't try. Not in that forum. There's a space for you, but it's not there. You can't go big. Do you know what I mean? You can't rock up at a supermarket and be like, why are we getting paid less? Well, because you're competing with people that you just can't compete with. It's not worth it. Um, I think it's fascinating. Like there's a few guys in this country now who are getting louder about selling direct. So I don't know if you've heard of, you probably won't. He's quite big in the UK. Petty Peonies, David Wheatley. Um, I've got to know him a little bit recently. He's he's pushing it quite hard. He hit a, I think unfortunately people don't change unless they have to. And this guy hit rock bottom, hundreds of grand in debt, doing things the way he'd always done it. And I think it's like to tell a story of this country and why farming is about to change massively. We left the EU, funding has been cut, government checks basically gone. Coupled with the war in Ukraine, fertilizer prices, fuel prices all went up massively. And then I don't know if you follow much of what's happening in places like Brazil, but they've since 2022 they've had a almost an agricultural revolution. I picked up on it about 6 months ago because I made a post and a couple of guys from Brazil commented on it and they were laughing because they're like, you guys can't compete with us. We've got a better climate. We've got lower inputs. We've got a supportive government. We've got huge fields. And they were just laughing. I thought, what's happened then? So I looked into it and they've like, the government's gone completely mental on producing because they had a food production problem. So basically the whole world has changed from politics to social to the, whatever, all of it. And a lot of farmers have been caught with their trousers down, just like, what? Why is this not working anymore? Because everything's changed around you. But they're all reasonably well off at the moment, right? It's like at the moment, like you can see the train crash coming. It's like change now, or it's not going to go well. And there's a few people that are going, okay, we've got to make a change. There's a UK podcast, Farmers Weekly. I hate it. It's like the sort of conventional farming magazine, but I listen to it anyway just to keep an ear in. And finally, for the first time from the last episode, they started talking about changing routes to market. And you're like, yes, it's in there. Like the seed has been sown. And it's like they're reluctant. It's like, because the wheat price is not coming up. It's not. It's probably going to go down. So stop growing it. Like, or grow it, but in a mixed farming setting where you turn it into flour and then you have something you can sell to people. Maybe and bring in a baker, outsource that, sell bread, right? Do you see what I mean? It's like you need something you can sell to people. If you only grow a commodity, you're at the hands of whoever decide whatever's going on in the world. And I I find that really worrying. Like maybe I'm an anxious person. Um, I tell you what, let's go way back a few years, a decade or more. I had one experience, and I say this all the time because it's a pivotal moment in life. I was in Madagascar on a yacht. We just sailed in from the Seychelles, and the crew had all gone ashore to check in with customs and immigration, and I stayed on the boat to look after it. And then this guy in a dugout canoe paddled up to the back of the boat, and it was full of fruit, like jungle fruit, papaya, mangoes, those little tiny bananas, like really amazing stuff. I've been at sea for 2 or 3 weeks, and I was like, I want all of it. I had euros, dollars, pounds, rupiah, rupees, like several currencies. I'm on a yacht. I'm rich. I was like, I can buy all of that. He'll be happy. And I said, how much? And he goes, I want calamari fishing hooks. Like, what? And they're special hooks. I don't know if you see them. They're not like normal fishing hooks. They're like calamari are too intelligent. Anyway, I said, I haven't got any of those. I've got normal fishing hooks. And he goes, no, I don't want those. I was like, well, dollars? No. Well, what do you want then? Calamari fishing hooks. And he left. And I was stood there like with no food. Obviously, I wasn't going to starve. I'm on a yacht. It's fine. Like, but there was a little seed of like, oh, right. Yeah, money's make believe, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's like if the person doesn't want that, it has no value to them, then whatever. And he wanted to be able to catch calamari. So it just sowed a seed in my head, and I was like, it took 10 years to germinate, but it was like real anxious feeling of like, I need to be able to grow food. I need to have my own food. And then by extension, you look at the world now and you're like, we all need to have our own food, like independent of government, independent of supermarkets. And then COVID kind of accelerated that a bit. Most people have fallen back a little bit into old habits because there isn't an alternative yet, right? If the alternative kept going during COVID and if farmers had started selling direct then, they could have brought the prices down. And I think it would be very different. But again, the world's evolving, and I can see, you can see the supermarkets getting their tentacles in. Like now the subsidies have gone. Oh, I even heard Tesco's have an advert that's along the lines of, if you grow things in a particular way, we will pay you for it. And it's like, or we'll reward you for it. And you're like, I know it's not sinister, but it sounds sinister. We'll reward you for doing good things. It's like, no, just buy the food at the correct price. Like, like that's the
Yeah.
reward.
In Canada, what we've seen happen is bigger farms getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger because they have to, but they're taking on more and more and more debt. And what I've seen coming like a freight train, and I feel like the little boy that cried wolf all the time, is if we end up with just a handful of farmers like Brazil, like where you've got these big, massive farmers and they can produce so much food, they control the system. And once they control the system, a few people at the top control the system, then what are we going to be paying for our groceries? Like,
Yeah.
it's he who controls the food controls the people. And sometimes I feel a little crazy for saying these things, but I see it coming like a freight train.
It does make you feel crazy, doesn't it? Because it is a bit like, you know, the the difference now is there isn't a Stalin, there isn't a Chairman Mao, there's not some single person dictating this, but there is a central system. And it's even worse because it's shareholders, right? And they're looking at a spreadsheet and they're just voting based on that, and it's not like there's not an evil person with a black cat like, I'm going to kill and control all the people. It's this like weird game that's just taken hold of what should be a good system. Because let's face it, like if you, I always try and see the good in the bad thing. So the supermarkets are amazing at logistics. They get loads of food to loads of people at a really inexpensive price. Tick, right? So we have to maintain that, or at least mimic it to a certain extent. They're really convenient. Small scale rebellion, those guys, their thing is convenience. That's how we get that. And that's why I make the sacrifice to deliver 52 weeks of the year, because I need that habit. You know, more or less what you're going to get, because I know you're still going to the supermarket, but you know what section not to go to, right? And but I bring it to you. It's my responsibility to go, I'm going to cut them off. I don't want to protest them. The great thing is you don't need to protest anyone. You don't need to lobby anyone. You just need to make a product that's a good price, really good quality, and make it really easy to buy. Like, that's it. That's the game. And then you win. Done.
Are you sitting on a farm or homestead that could be making you real money? Tired of guessing on how to market your products? I owned a 36,000 square foot greenhouse. I ran 2 farm to table stores. I had 30 people on payroll. I brought in $2.5 million in gross revenue in 2020, selling farm goods directly to customers. Now I teach farmers and homesteaders how to make money and save money off the land they already have. Whether you're selling eggs, beef, produce, baked goods, or anything in between, if you want to get into direct marketing and grow your sales, I'm the girl for you. Stop leaving money on the table and start putting it into your bank account. Join me at Dawn's Dirt Business Coaching and let's make your farm pay you back. Absolutely. And that's where I feel like you're right. Like never mind the governments, they can do what they're going to do, but we, the people, have the power to change our system. So it comes down to us as human beings in whatever country we're in, voting with our dollars and just buying from the local farmer instead of buying from a supermarket, right? Changing the system little bit by little bit by little bit. And I think that's how we're going to change the world. My whole goal, honestly, people have asked me, Don, what's your new goal now? And I'm like, I want to change our global food system. That's my whole goal. And I want to empower people to take their food back into their own hands. I want everyone to be able to grow a few, garden or have some plants in their backyard, a few backyard chickens. And that is how we're going to change the world. That's how we, the people, never mind the corporations, never mind the government. That's just, that's there. We don't even have to look at that. We just need to empower ourselves to take our food back into our own hands.
Absolutely. And I think being a small farm right now is actually a benefit. My neighbors are huge. They're father and son. They've got loads of great kit, very good farmers, but that's a massive ship to steer, right? For them to create new marketplaces for a giant farm is a trap. In the old system, 20 years ago, as farms were getting bigger and bigger, it was like, yeah, bigger is better. And now it's like, what are you going to do with all that grain? No one wants it. Whereas a small farm can be agile. I can be like, oh, look, no one's buying that type of kale. Oh, well, it's only one of 50 crops that I grow. I just won't grow it again. No big deal. Or, okay, the box scheme in the summer holidays, it drops because people go on holiday. So I'm like, cool, but I can pick up a little bit wholesale there. I can up my restaurant sales. I can do that. There's like little pivots you can make to top you up because you've got that agility, because you're not sitting on a mountain of one crop. It's like, so I find that fun. But I think it's a team effort on that one because the small farms can innovate the marketplace, but the big farms can bring in, and like a lot of those bits of machinery, they're cool. We need them. Like there's a lot of innovation there. And they have the space to try new crops like field trials that I don't have, right? So that a combination works quite well, but the real change has to be the change, how people interact with their food. And I think that's only going to come out of necessity from smaller farms, right? Because I have to do that as a default, otherwise I don't do it. Right? That's it. There's no other
For
way.
sure.
So there you go. That's how you win.
Yeah,
It's fun. I'm enjoying it. Like
absolutely.
it's been hard work, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Um, wow, this has been an amazing conversation. I love hearing about farming over there, about the global system, how, we're in two different countries and we believe the same thing about food and local people and just our local systems. So, any
Just on
last
that
minute
one though,
words as we
we are in different countries. You could say we're of a similar culture in a lot of ways, but I had some visitors from South Korea a couple of years ago. Same problem. They came to do a documentary in Europe to talk about direct sales because supermarkets were smashing farmers to bits. And weirdly, they were like, yeah, we don't have farmers markets. What? And like, you think about an Asian country and you think they would. So this is a global problem. It's everywhere. And it's like, it blows my mind. It's fascinating. It really is. But there's a lot of people going, hang on a minute, don't like this. And I think conversations like this, people like yourself, just having those conversations and putting them out in the world is really important. And if we can just get some young people to come and have a crack, you know, just roll the dice. You don't need money. You just got to do it. Like, get on with it. You learn the money along the way.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, because of the sales agreement with my farm, I can't do vegetables in Canada anymore. But I took my first job in 20 years and I got fired from it. I'm very unemployable. And so I started up a little chicken business. I got laying hens and I got meat birds, and I'm going back to farmers markets selling food to people because that's what I know how to do. I know how to be a farmer. I am a farmer to my core, and I want to shake the hands of the people and build that relationship.
So,
So important. Cool. Where can people find you? Where's your social media handles? Who are you? And where can people find you online?
At Sunshine and Green on Facebook and Instagram. Facebook has gone wild. We're like 330,000 followers now. It's crazy. So that's really cool. Website, sunshineandgreen.co.uk. I'm sorry, we only deliver to a small part of Suffolk, but maybe one day we'll be coming to Canada. Hopefully not, because you guys will do it yourself. But and that's it really.
I
Yeah.
love it.
So you can follow me, my misadventures on the farm, figuring it out, what we're doing. I post quite a lot. Some of it nonsense, some of it may be useful, and hopefully entertaining.
Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you being here.
Thanks for
Really
having us.
appreciate learning about your farm and talking about, well, politics and farming and food and all of it. I think this is great.